Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Friday, March 28th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks, which is going to be one pitcher. It's going to be four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history, obviously with it being the second game of the season for many teams. That recent history we don't have quite as much, so we'll be relying on some spring training. But once we get done with the core picks, I'll be going over my top GPP stacks for this slate overall. It's an 8-game main slate, so it's going to be a pretty interesting one just in general. Obviously, feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. A lot of good pitchers pitching for these teams overall, and a lot of interesting matchups at the same time as well. And then in the morning, I'll be posting the early weather reports. If any game has a double-digit chance of rain or precipitation or higher, I will be listing it down there as kind of a pinned comment. We'll try to leave some updates for that throughout the day, as well as many starting lineups as I can get to throughout the day. But without further ado, we'll get right into it with the core picks. We're going to start off at that pitcher position with Jeffrey Springs of the Athletics. He's going against the Seattle Mariners, $8,800, so a decent price tag there. If we look back at what he did last year, very limited sample size. Obviously, he was coming off that elbow surgery, so he didn't pitch too often last season, wasn't able to pitch too deep into games, but does have decent but limited history versus Seattle in the past. He had 42 points versus them last season in 2024. He's coming off an up and down spring, 4.42 ERA. The strikeouts were pretty good there. Probably walked maybe a couple of too many guys, but definitely do like his upside in this matchup, especially if he is able to go 6 innings and get that quality start for us. Maybe he comes a little bit short of that, but there's a lot of good pitchers out there, so definitely feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. Then we're going to move down to our hitters. So the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be a team that I do like stacking today just in general. Coming off a pretty decent game in game number 1 as well, we have Andres Gimenez, $2,600, really cheap play here. Like I said, game 1 was very good for him. 1 for 3 versus Charlie Morton, the expected starting pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles in his career. He is coming off a pretty decent spring training where he hit .283, good on-base percentage, had 2 home runs, 2 stolen bases. So I definitely do like this upside at his respective price tag. Then we're going to move down to his teammate at shortstop in Bo Bichette, $2,800, another guy that is coming off a really strong spring, but in his career versus Charlie Morton, 5 for 16 with 1 home run. This spring, he had .337 with 4 home runs. Looking more like the Bo Bichette of old. Obviously, he didn't pan out in game number 1 since he had 0 points, but do expect a pretty big bounce back versus Charlie Morton and the Baltimore Orioles in game number 2. Then we move down to our outfield with Adolis Garcia, $3,200, probably one of the best hitter versus pitcher stats on the entire day. 4 for 7 with 2 home runs versus Tanner Houck in his career, and he didn't have like the greatest spring training, but it still wasn't bad at the end of the day. .260 batting average, 3 home runs. Definitely do like the upside with Adolis Garcia. $3,200, not a bad price tag for him. As we will see his price tag kind of fluctuate throughout the season, it'll get like as high as $3,800, probably as low as like $3,000, $2,900. Just kind of depends on where he's at with his streakiness. But like the history that's there versus Tanner Houck in the past and the potential to pay off just in general. The Texas Rangers are not a team that I'm truly stacking in this matchup, but I think he's an interesting one-off at the end of the day. And then last but not least, I have Colton Cowser here. He is 2 for 7 with 1 home run in his career versus Kevin Gausman, the expected starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, coming off a pretty strong spring training where he had .364 with 2 home runs, and he did hit leadoff for this Baltimore Orioles team in game number 1. If that's the case once again in game number 2, he's going to be a very interesting play at $2,900, especially with a pretty potent Baltimore lineup. Kevin Gausman does not look like the Kevin Gausman of old, so definitely would expect him to be a big part, especially if he's hitting leadoff once again for this team overall. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you'll have $14,700 remaining, just under $3,700 remaining per player. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of ability to pay up there, whether that is for like a Shohei Ohtani, a Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a lot of different options at the top that are looking pretty good overall. And, feel free to mix and match at that pitcher position. Once again, feel free to mix and match in terms of stacks. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my top GPP teams to stack for this slate overall. And the 3 teams that I do have to stack for this slate are going to be the Baltimore Orioles going against Kevin Gausman. A lot of these hitters have decent history versus him in the past. Kevin Gausman is not the Kevin Gausman of old. Fastball was a little bit better in spring training, but the splitter is not breaking quite as well as it used to, so he could be hit pretty hard just in general. Got the Boston Red Sox going against Jack Leiter, the very young pitcher for the Texas Rangers, so could be some decent upside there. Obviously, very, very limited history at that. And then the Toronto Blue Jays going against Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton can be hit or miss on any given start. He's obviously up there in age at this point in time, and a few of these Toronto Blue Jays have hit him pretty well in the past, mainly Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Andres Jimenez, Bo Bichette, and George Springer, who's coming off a really rough season and a really rough spring training. But with that being said, these are my core picks as well as top GPP teams to stack for Friday, March 28th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments section of this video. Once again, in the morning, I'll be posting the weather report for any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then also throughout the day, if there's any major weather updates, I'll be leaving that down there, as well as all these starting lineups as they do come out throughout the day. So definitely be sure that you are checking up down there so that you have the most up-to-date information as possible. If the core picks change whatsoever, I will leave that as a pinned comment as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks. That's typically going to be Monday through Friday. Got the UFL DFS video coming out once a week. Did come out last night. In future weeks, it will be coming out on Tuesday, so definitely on the lookout for that, as well as some NFL draft content as we do head into the actual NFL draft itself. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user on any one of those three sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Friday, March 28th.